Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on 90s Plus and 90s Broncos Insider. Mike Klis joins us now to preview the Broncos' Monday night clash against the Chargers at SoFi Field out there in Los Angeles and the big sparkling new stadium out there. Thanks for joining us, Mike. And first of all, I guess my first obvious question, lots going on in Bronco land, most of it not great right now, but I guess first big question I got, how is Russell Wilson's shoulder?
Looks good. I mean, during the media viewing this week, no limitations. Been throwing the ball pretty well. He got an injection last Friday after the Thursday night game. He heard it in the first half of the Raiders. I believe about 5 minutes left to go in the first half. And he had a real good first half, 11 out of 12, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Second half, he was 6 out of 13 for 88 yards. Maybe it stiffened up on him. And right after that game, they made an appointment for his specialist, his shoulder specialist, in Los Angeles to check it out. And the specialist checked it out and decided to give him an injection. All good. He's practiced this week. He's not on the injury report today, so he was a full participant. So, you know, all systems go. We'll see. He obviously didn't play well Thursday. We'll see if the shoulder had something to do with it. I think it may have on some throws and not on others. There's a mental component anytime you have an injury also, especially if you're a thrower. You know, a pitcher has a sore elbow, it's going to affect his confidence and ability to locate. Even though he might be able to still throw 95. So I'm sure Russell Wilson was going through some of that. He got the injection. From what I understand, he's ready to go Monday against the Chargers.
By the way, I should clarify for our audience that we're recording this on Friday, October the 14th, just before the Monday night game on October the 17th. It sounds like, Mike, based on what you're saying, that it probably did have a fair bit of impact on his performance in that Thursday night game against Indianapolis. Obviously, Russell wasn't very good in that game. How much do you think it will affect him against the Chargers? And perhaps based on what you're saying, maybe a little less than what it was on Thursday night?
Yes, I'm going to say, you know, it's not going to affect him much at all. I would add on the Colts, while it may have affected him, a lot of his, downfall in that game is he didn't seem to see who he should have seen. There were some receivers running open, most notably on the 4th and 1 from the 5 to end the game. When KJ Hamler came off the pick route and was wide open, and Jerry Jeudy was open a lot in that game, and Russell didn't see him. He forced the throw at the pop-up throw, is on his first interception in the fourth quarter when they were in field goal range. Maybe he was trying to throw it away and his shoulder wouldn't let him, but I don't know. That just looked like ill-advised. Obviously, the end zone. He had plenty of velocity on that end zone pick. He just threw it late and threw it when he shouldn't have. You can't give up the interception there. So it was decision making probably more than the physical part of the shoulder. But again, when you're in pain, I think it affects you mentally as far as your confidence. And even though he would never admit it, only he knows how much that shoulder hurt. Let's face it. But he had the shoulder injury and he didn't play very well. So that's all we have to pull together.
One thing we certainly do know, Mike, injury-wise, I mean, the Broncos about as banged up as it gets. I mean, right? It doesn't now with Bowles out for the season. Of course, you've got Javonte Williams and so many other injuries. I mean, how did the Broncos fill all those holes?
Yeah, it's a yes and no to that. Bowles goes down, and they had quite the lengthy list. But it looks like they're getting Justin Simmons back from this game. It looks like they're getting Greg Dulcich for the first time this year, the rookie tight end, who they really were hoping to be their number one tight end this year, especially in the receiving game. And Michael Ojemudia was down for depth and cornerback. So really with Simmons back, even though Caden Stearns played terrific. I mean, he had 2 interceptions the last game. It's Justin Simmons is a fine player, and Dulcich is the guy they really could use on offense. I do think Calvin Anderson will probably be the left tackle to replace Garrett Bowles, and he's good. Calvin Anderson's good. He just hasn't. This is going to be the first time he has a sustained look as a starter. And then at right tackle, I'm not sure if they're going Billy Turner or Cam Fleming. Fleming's been playing well. Turner's better if he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy, so I'm not sure which way they're going to go there. I would think Billy Turner is ready to start but Cam Fleming better be on alert because Turner's had a difficult time coming back from that knee surgery.
Kind of want to turn things over to the coaching side of things because Nathaniel Hackett, I think, has heard a fair bit of criticism based on a combination of the play calling and some of the Broncos' woes. We think back to that home game where the crowd was counting down, although some of that appears to have been fixed. What do you think about the criticism that's been levied in Hackett's direction?
Yeah, I think I think the first 2 games it was maybe fair. Where I give him credit is that he's adjusted. I mean, to admit after the Houston game when he had all those operational issues, and to admit he was failing the team like he did, and then to hire a guy to help him. Head coaches usually don't do that. That's a stubborn lot, coaches in general, and they tend to be a know-it-all group. And I give Hackett credit for admitting flaws there, looking in the mirror and saying, I got to get better. And here's how I can get better. And that's to bring in Jerry Rosberg. And since then, while you can disagree with the decision here and there, for instance, whether to run the ball on 3rd and 4 at the 14 when Russ threw the interception in the end zone, whether to run the ball on 4th and 1 at the 5 when Russ threw it incomplete to Cortland Sutton over the middle. You can argue that, but that's not a game operation. That's just a decision where it only works if it's only good if it works. And it might be the right decision, but if it doesn't work, then it was the wrong decision, the way it works in football games. So where I think Hackett might be, and this has been a little underrated, his entire staff is relatively inexperienced at each level. In other words, the coordinators are all first-time coordinators except for Stooks, the special teams coordinator, who held that job once before for 1 year, and that was 12 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. The position coaches were in college or high school a year ago, or 2 years ago. So they're in football, they spend all these players are pretty much isolated to their one group. They all come together for meetings, but I just think I think all this coaching staff is going to be a great coaching staff in a couple of years, but it's not a great coaching staff now. And I don't know, it can't be because they're all first timers. So, Zach Azzani at receiver and Christian Parker at cornerback. After that, just about everybody is a first timer at their level that they're at, whether a position coach or coordinator. So I think overall that's where the Broncos have been lacking in coaching. But real quick, Chris, what I like about Nathaniel Hackett is that despite intense scrutiny that he's received, and some of it has been rather harsh and mean, he has never been defensive. He's never talked down to the media. He's been straightforward. He's been businesslike. There's some character strengths about him that I think give him a chance to be a good coach. I don't know if it'll be this year. We'll see, but I think he's got a chance.
Interesting. To your point, Mike, I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the answer he had after Houston, I mean, he says the right things. And I think he's got, and you mentioned, maybe letting go of the ego a little bit and bring in Jerry Rossberg. I mean, he does seem to have certain things down, but obviously he's come under a fair bit of flack over the last few weeks. We'll see if he's able to rectify that, and maybe a bit more on the positive side as well. All 5 of the Broncos games so far this season have at least been competitive. That win against the 49ers now looks a bit better than it did a few weeks ago. Kept it tight against the Raiders. Broncos only, I believe, 4.5, 5-point underdogs at LA against the Chargers. Do you think that they're going to be able to keep it competitive?
Yeah, I think the Broncos got a chance to win. I don't know if they will. I think they got a chance to win. First of all, even in their most dire times here in this previous 6 years since Super Bowl 50, when Peyton retired and Gary Kubiak left, and they've had all kinds of other issues. They've been able to beat the Chargers. They're 7-5 against the Chargers the previous 6 years. They're not playing well against the Raiders. Obviously, the Chiefs have their number. It still doesn't look like the Broncos are ready to beat the Chiefs. But I think they can beat the Chargers without Joey Bosa. Chargers don't have Joey Bosa. Rashawn Slater, their fine left tackle, I think they can put some pressure on Justin Herbert. They're going to have to make sure they clog up the lane so he doesn't take off and run like he can, like Derek Carr did a few weeks ago. But I think they got a chance, and Russell Wilson is under fire. A lot of the blame for the first time went to Russell Wilson after the loss to the Colts, and I think Wilson's going to respond with a good game against the Chargers. And Latavius Murray, adding him to the backfield, adding Dulcich to tight end. If Calvin Anderson can hang in there against Khalil Mack, or Cam Fleming can hang in there against Khalil Mack, I think the Broncos have a chance. It's going to be tough because I really like Herbert. I just think he's an outstanding quarterback. But and the Chargers may be getting Keenan Allen back, it sounds like, to go with Mike Williams and Eckler. So they got weapons. But I just think it's going to be I think it's going to be a final possession game. What happens in the last possession type of game.
Interesting. Hey, I appreciate that, hearing that. And I guess any final thoughts about the game on Monday that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, two other factors that work in the Broncos' favor. They had 11 days between games. That should help them as far as the legs, as far as getting into peak performance, right? It's hard on Thursday night. The Broncos didn't play a good game. Either did the Colts. When you play a tough game on a Sunday, it's hard just to have it. You know how it is. You just can't have it every game. And I think they should have it. I think a lot of people should play their best game against the Chargers. The other thing is, I think it'll be, 50% Bronco fans in that stadium. The Chargers still don't draw well, and it's filled up. It's sparkly with visiting fans. So, and the Broncos are a little due to play well on prime time, right?
True.
They sure have. It's been kind of embarrassing in primetime audience. They could use a good game to show the nation before the nation gets Bronco fatigue. Maybe they have already, but this is their last chance to kind of show themselves. And I do think the Broncos will play a good game. Whether they win, I think they got a chance to win. Doesn't mean they will, but I think they'll play one of their better games.
Can I add something, Mike, that I haven't mentioned to you yet? I will be in the crowd as a Bronco fan on
very good.
Monday night, flying out for that game. And it's a trip my friends and I do each year. We got a one road Bronco game, and we chose the LA one. So we'll see you there.
You've been a jet setter, man. And I tell you, you've been the weather here, and I've been here for, October 84. And this last 2.5, 3 week stretch we've had, the most unbelievable weather of all time. It's the greatest weather ever. I mean, the only problem is my wife gets mad at me because I turn the heater on in the morning and the air conditioning on in the evening, in the late afternoons, that time of year. But
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
My fiance gets mad at me for the same thing. It's stunning.
Yeah, Yeah, they argue if you don't turn the heater on, you won't need the air conditioning later. And I suppose, but it gets chilly in the morning. It gets toasty in the late afternoon, and it's just inside the house I'm talking. But it's just there's a 12-hour stretch there where you just can't beat the weather. I don't know what you've been doing, but congratulations on that.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, and hopefully, it's kind of felt a little bit like Southern California, but maybe a little chilly at night. We'll avoid that out there in LA on Monday night. But more importantly, Mike, 9 News Broncos insider Mike Klis, thanks so much for joining us here as always. We love getting your insight not only on the weather, but of course, the guy for the Denver Broncos. Mike, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Chris.